What's up? Welcome to Spread TV, and I'm Dave Navarro, and that's Todd Newman, of course. And this is a very special, special day for us because we have with us in the studio Mr. Dave Mustaine of Megadeth. And I can't tell you how excited Todd and I are about this. Since we started the show, you were like one of the first guys who were like, we gotta get Mustaine.
Absolutely.
We gotta get Mustaine. So thank you so much for coming down.
You're welcome.
So what's cooking right now with the band? You guys are on tour right now?
We're actually in between legs. We just got back from going to India, of all places.
Wow.
And it was really interesting. Leaving, I was in the airport, and I saw a guy that was purple.
Yeah.
He looked like a Kalamata olive.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
And I was looking at the dude, and I looked down, and he was wearing sandals, and his feet were absolutely purple, and I was like, this has got to be really hardcore to go through life looking like Barney. So
Yeah. India.
yeah,
Wow.
we played in Bangalore, and it was an outdoor festival with Machine Head and a bunch of other satanic bands and stuff. So
Yeah.
it was
So is there any kind of, because like India is like real serious, like hardcore, their religion is like, what is it, like Hindu there? Is that their
well,
trip?
it's Hindi, and also there's some Muslim people out there, but I think it's pretty much a melting pot of a lot of different religions. I think because it's in Asia, there's so many different type of people that cut through India, you know.
But it's surprising, because I've never played there, I've never been there, but it's surprising that there's a market for like the satanic realm.
Oh, yeah. The funny thing was the audience, there was a lot of people out there that were digging on the whole black metal vibe, and I'm not into that myself, but it was really interesting. You know, you come in and it's a country that's suffering from poverty really bad, but, you know, you go to where the hotels are, where the artists stay at, and you would think it was like Newport Beach or something like that, you know.
Great.
And then you get in your car and you drive about 30 inches off of the sidewalk, and you're in the middle of traffic, and you realize that you're basically in the middle of a third world country.
I know, it's wild. Had you been there before?
No, and the coolest thing was, as soon as we got there, we had a Mahavishnu warrior, I think it was called a Mahavishnu or something, and he had this huge sign on his head that he was balancing, and he was doing push-ups with this thing on his head, and he'd stand up and dance and everything, and this one guy had a sword, and he's like sticking his tongue out at me. I'm like, just keep the sword where I can see it, you know.
Yeah.
He handed me a coconut, and it was like a peace offering, and I didn't know if I wanted to drink it or not, because, you know, you just...
But it could be some kind of huge insult if you didn't. Did you drink it?
I took a little bit of it.
Yeah, you got it.
You know, I didn't know if it was like some kind of, you know, I've seen that one Chevy Chase movie where the guy gets the toxic stuff, and the last thing I want to do is explode on stage.
Maybe having a sip of that is why that guy appeared purple to you later. If
Perhaps.
You think about it. Yeah. So that's awesome. So you guys are taking a break now. You're going out. I'm really curious to know what your take on the whole music industry right now is. And you're one of the lucky ones because Megadeth has always had like a serious hardcore following, you know, but things right now are so fucked up for up and coming bands, new bands. Do you have a feeling about that or a thought about that?
Do I have a feeling that, well, I think that the music industry has obviously changed, because when I started, music business was all one word. It was music business. Now it's music, which is us, and business, which is the record company people. And most of the people that work at the record companies, they don't have any talent as far as like playing instruments, so they get in the music business. And before, at least the guys that worked at the record companies, you know, they had some kind of talent. You know, it's like in the live entertainment business now. There used to be promoters. Now they're just talent buyers. The years of Bill Graham are gone.
I know.
And with the digital audio workstations, anybody and their brother can make a song and cut and paste and turn it into a whole ripping song. But then, you know, you get on stage and there's only so long a guy can stare down at his feet before people say, I want my money back.
That's what I think.
And going years with, I think we went almost 10 years having releases with no guitar solos on them. And for me, that's because the guitar players weren't good enough to do solos.
Yeah.
You know, they do tune their guitar to it's a percussive instrument, and then they just don't take any risks or explore the guitar.
Yeah. Well, we're pretty psyched to have you here for that reason as well, because as a guitar player, you know, we kind of actually came up around the same time, like the late 80s and the 90s, back when there's a guy named Ron Lafitte that I guess he used to work with management, and he managed us at the same time. And incidentally, and I don't know if you want to get into this, but he's the same guy who put me into rehab for the first time, and I believe you as well. Is that correct?
He caused me to go to rehab.
Yeah. Did he difference. There's a little bit of a difference there. Touche. Yeah. Did you get it? Was it an intervention? Because I was like intervened on.
Well, I mean, as much as you can intervene somebody who doesn't want to go, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it was very in vogue to have the sobriety police in the 90s, you know, with a certain band from Boston going around with, you know, telling everybody that they can or can't drink and they can or cannot get loaded and stuff. And I mean, you know, if you can get loaded and you can handle yourself, then who you harming?
Yeah, no,
yourself.
And that's where I'm at. Like, I'm sober, but, like, if people can deal and handle it, great. The funny thing about Ron was that he used to dangle you in front of me. Well, like, Mustaine's going, you know, if he can do it, you know, you can. That's part of the reason I ended up going in. And as a result, I went probably in like 15 of those things.
I'm sorry.
No,
you were of service without even knowing.
Yeah, it's all good.
I don't know. I like the word dangle.
Well, you know what I'm saying. He was like, you know, if Mustaine can go, you can go, and you know, and it was.
Well, part of the reason I went is because I knew they had drugs there.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like a 30-day, you know, it's a 30-day vacation. They get you high. You know, I ended up going quite a few times, but.
Yeah, me too. I developed a $30,000 a month treatment center habit.
Yeah. So moving back into the music thing, you know, we talked a little bit on the phone, and one of the things I brought up, and you know, anybody out there that wants to hear like Metallica stories and all that shit, I'm going to spare us because like we, you know, just go on the internet and look at that. But as far as like your appearance in the Some Kind of Monster documentary, and we both watched that, we were just so impressed with like your level of honesty and directness in that. And I don't know, you kind of to us like came out as the cool one. Do you know what I'm saying? And what you know, because if we're not talking about like recovery and all that stuff, what did it take to get to that level of clarity?
With them?
With you and with them, you know what I mean?
Well,
that was really...
The funny thing is that whole thing that went down, that was September 13th. And September 11th, our country had been attacked. So that was 2 days after we got nailed. And that was my 40th birthday. And I'm spending my 40th birthday with Lars. Now, that's a terrible joke. When we sat down to talk, he said, do you mind if this counselor sits here and helps us work through this? And I thought, sure, you don't have any idea how much counseling I had to go through because of you guys. And so we talked a little bit, and I knew that the guy that was working with them, there was something that just was unsettling about him I didn't like. So
the guy in the sweaters.
Phil Towell is his name. You know, they called him the connector, and I thought, well, it was more like the account drainer. And you know, I don't understand why you would want to have all your, you know, I mean, watching the Osbournes and having their dogs crap in their house on the floor, that to me is just mind-boggling how you would want someone to see something like that, let alone have somebody see the inner turmoil of your band. I mean, the one thing that's for sure is that people see the dynamics of that group and how hard it was to be in there. I mean, Jason went through it too.
Oh yeah.
You know, I know all bands have those kind of problems. You've been in a couple of bands that have been very exploding personalities.
I think that's one of the reasons why that resonated with me so much. When I saw you just being direct and saying, you know, correct, you know, that's not what I said. What I said was this, you know, because.
Well, I'm not afraid of Lars. Everybody else is.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, what's to be afraid of if you're just speaking honestly. But like the reason I identified with it is because, you know, I spent some time in the Chili Peppers, and because of my drug addiction, was ejected from that situation. And they went on to like, you know, sell multi-platinum selling records, and it was, you know, there was a lot to struggle with that. And then certainly my experience in Jane's addiction and my relationship with Perry there's always been an animosity there, you know, and like what really shone through for me is like not only did you have like the clarity to have that conversation, but how much other people don't. Like how difficult that is for people to just speak openly and honestly about something that's fucking 20 years old. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't talk about it. I usually end up refuting it because people keep bringing it up. You know, I mean, if it wasn't good in a certain way for me to acknowledge that whole thing, I probably wouldn't talk about it. I mean, there's two great bands out of the whole thing, and it was just not meant to be. James and I had planned on firing Lars so many times, and Lars doesn't, he won't ever cop to this, but he was getting canned when the guys were coming back from the European tour before Cliff died. They planned on getting rid of him, you know? And I mean, I wish them the best of luck. I think that the world knows now. I mean, I like James more than Lars. I think everybody does. And I've all, you know, have no problems with James. You know,
Yeah.
don't really like Kurt because he got my job, but
Yeah, well.
you know, I nailed his girlfriend before I left. So.
Whoa! Snap! Hey, what are you gonna do? Going back to Megadeth and where you're at now and your career there, you know, when you stepped into the lead singer role, this is one thing I wanted to ask you because I put out a solo record years ago where I went into the singing role. Mm-hmm. That transition for you, like when I did it, I realized why singers are fucking crazy. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there's just so much, you know, intensity on you. Because being a guitar player for 15 years, and I had my instrument, and it didn't matter what how my voice felt or my physical condition, I could play. Once I stepped into that role, it was a whole nother world of insanity.
Yeah.
You know, and because I used to let my guitar speak for me. Now it's my actual words. You know, what was that transition like for you?
Well, I didn't start singing until after we'd auditioned a lot of guys, and we were actually the last straw came. It was I think it was December of '82, I think it was, and we'd had some guy named Billy Bonds, of all names, come in, and he had 2 12-packs of Budweiser. Now, we were homeless at the time, so free beer for me was almost as good as free sex.
Billy Bonds, you're in.
So the guy shows up and he had eyeliner on and mascara and stuff.
Oh, God.
And you know,
what a puffed up.
I can tell. For some guys, it's okay, you know, depending on their bands or their background. But for Megadeth, it just wasn't right, you know. So we drank all his beer and fired him. And and then that next time we rehearsed, Ellison had said something, why don't you just try singing? And I thought, why don't you? And I tried it, and it was hard because I didn't know how to do the circular breathing and everything.
Right.
And I still don't consider myself a singer. I'm more like a vocalist. And as far as like...
But you're a distinct personality vocally, which is, you know, a lot of people can sing, but they don't have a distinct, like you hear them and you're like, that's Dave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but...
No, that's okay.
That's how we look at you. We were just listening to Megadeth on the way over here, and we were like, dude, this guy's way better than Hetfield. We just said that.
we actually were. We were, because there's an attitude.
And you wonder why it continues.
I'm just saying.
Fueling the fire.
You know, but I'm just saying there's an irony and a smirk is what you said.
There's a
smirk.
sarcasm and an attitude in the voice that's like, you can't learn how to sing that. It just comes out that way, and that's why I've been a fan since day one anyway. The one thing that I wanted to actually ask is, have you had pressure to try and conform to any newer kinds of music, like from labels and stuff like that? Because the one thing that I love is Megadeth's been Megadeth all the way through. When you hear some of these other bands, they're one thing in the 80s, or another thing in the 90s, or another thing in the millennium. Is there been pressure to do that, and you're just like, fuck you, this is what we do? Or
yeah, there was definitely pressure. When Countdown to Extinction came out, it was #2 in America, and Billy Ray Cyrus had the #1 record with Achy Breaky Heart, and it was a novelty, so you couldn't shake it. And consequently, I hate him, and my daughter watches his daughter's show, and I get to see him there with his supercut hairdo, and it just blows my mind, you know, that you can see somebody go on to superstardom like that, obviously riding the back of his daughter, but when we had the next, not literally.
Not short on opinions, this guy, by the way.
Not literally. And the follow-up record to that was Euthanasia, and they wanted that to be even more commercial. They started saying, well, we're going to move the mascot to the back of the record, and we're going to change the logo a little bit and stuff, and I was like, why?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it was sad. It was very sad. And Euthanasia was #4, and to me, I thought that it was a good record, but it certainly wasn't as fast as it had initially been demoed. And if you watch the making of Euthanasia, it's a thing called Evolver. You can see Max Norman. Max has got a lazy eye, so he's cross-eyed. So he's sitting there counting with a metronome and trying to slow everything down to 130 beats per minute. And I'm like, you can't have every single song on the record the same tempo. It's going to end up being like Wish You Were Here. You know, it's like a 10-part record. And long story boring, to have the pressure to follow up a record with something that sounds like somebody else, yes, that definitely happened.
Well, I'm glad didn't work out that way. Just as
it
a
was
fan.
hard
But
because
that's
it was
amazing
really
for me
hard.
because like for a time, like especially like in the height of like when MTV was working and playing bands and actually playing music, like you guys were like the premier like metal band being, you know, so why would anybody want to fuck with that formula? I mean, not even that it is a formula, but you know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
Like you're off doing like, you know, the conventions, Democratic conventions. Your song is in the news, you know, it's in the news clip, you know, you're every fucking movie that comes out. Why would someone want to tweak that? Because of Billy Ray Cyrus? Are you fucking kidding me?
I don't know. Every village has got its own idiot, I guess. I don't know. The guy that was the president of Capitol when we were doing Cryptic Writings came into the studio and made fun of the clothes I was wearing. And I looked at him and I thought, we could bury you out here and no one would know that you were missing.
Or at least be glad that you are.
Well, the thing is he's gone now, and I didn't think that he left anything as a legacy behind him. I don't know one thing that he did. I mean, at least some of the guys that were there did something, you know, that contributed to Capitol's greatness. And you know, I can't think of a damn thing he did.
Yeah, yeah. I've got some horrible Capitol stories myself. I mean, it was just once it got to a point where they wouldn't let me out, but they wouldn't let me make music either.
So you're like Marcus Allen.
Which is basically, yeah, a lot like him, except white. But apart from that, and not a football player. But you know what I'm saying? Like I was just fucking trapped, and it was like, and the ironic thing is, if you look out my window, that's what I see as Capitol Records now. Like I got to look at that.
You need to move your furniture around.
No kidding. No kidding. But you know, it's still, I mean, I look at it as like this epic building that a lot of history came out of and really great things happened back in the day. But so what else is going on now? I mean, I know you're gonna.
Well, we're leaving April 8th to Denver to start Gigantor, and we're going out with In Flames and Children of Bodom, and we wanted Children of Bodom to be on the first Gigantor in 2005, but evidently Alexi had said something about John Petrucci, the guitar player from Dream Theater, and said that he was a robot and didn't have any feeling, and he was really mechanical, and I thought, and, you know, I mean, he's a genius guitar player, and, you know, I mean, when you get that good, at some point, you kind of lose a little bit of your feeling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would rather play like Jimmy Page than like John, but I recognize his talent, and John and Mike had already confirmed, so you know, we had to pass on Children of Bodom, but they're on this one, as well as a band called Job for a Cowboy, who just did Gigantor with us over in the UK, and a band called High on Fire, which is from Oakland. So, I'm looking forward to doing that. We're going up into Canada as well as in North America, and then down to South America, and then the tour ends. So, and it's been over a year so far, and you know, we've gone into some new countries that we've never been in before, like Singapore and Thailand, and you know, going to India. I got to tell you, Singapore was okay. Thailand was a blast.
Really?
Don't get massages there.
No,
because you end up doing stuff you don't want to do.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. No,
because you end up doing stuff you don't want to do.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Todd. You can go to Thailand. You can actually purchase a human being for very cheap. Right?
Yeah, for the price of a massage.
Yeah.
And try and get rid of them.
Wow, that's awesome, man. So is it true that the Gigantor was named after Gigantor?
The cartoon?
To a degree, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I liked that cartoon when I was a kid. You know, back when I was growing up, cartoons back then actually were fun, and it wasn't all about putting people down, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like all comedy nowadays. I mean, I liked Get Smart. I liked the Three Stooges and stuff like that. And you know, you can't even watch anything on TV anymore without somebody just ripping somebody else. And I like comedy.
You're right.
But, you know, I don't really like watching people get put down, because it just it incites a part of me to go back to that sarcastic place, you know, where you just put people down all the time.
Oh, yeah.
That's hard enough to get by in life. That's why people get fat and lazy. Life is hard, so you don't need somebody who you look up to saying, you know, you're a loser or stuff like that.
Sure. I mean, I say that stuff to, you know, for when the cameras aren't rolling. Then it's fucking, you know.
I save it for my in-laws.
Anything goes. Yeah, exactly. One thing I've always wanted to ask you, which I know we're running out of time and I want to get to some playing, but just as a guitarist, favorite guitar players, like guys that, you know, are the ones that influenced you the most? Because for the past 2 weeks, I've just for some reason, I've decided after all my 40 years of living that it just kind of comes down to Ed Van Halen. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, Eddie's very talented. I think it goes back to his classical roots, but for me it was Jimmy Page. I just went over and saw the concert there and got to sit over where Jimmy's family was, and that for me was one of the most ridiculous things in my life, because Ross Halfin, you know, Ross is Jimmy's best friend, and he asked me if I wanted a ticket to the concert. I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
You know, so granted the plane ticket was ridiculous because it's last minute getting a plane ticket to England.
Of course.
But I went and saw Led Zeppelin, and it was fantastic. That's one of my heroes. Angus Young is one of my heroes. Michael Schenker was one of my heroes, but he's going through a lot of personal stuff right now, and it's really hard for me to hold him in esteem watching the personal decisions that he's doing.
Wow.
And I like Stevie Ray Vaughan, that kind of approach to guitar.
Of course.
You know, I think Eric Johnson is respectable too, although he's a little bit more kind of foo-foo kind of guitar player than Stevie. I thought Stevie was a badass.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get into some playing, you know, because what we're trying to do here is get guys like yourself that I look up to as guitar players and as artists, musicians, and just like kind of see where they're coming from playing wise, you know.
Sure.
So if you could show me some shit, I'd be.
I don't know if I can show you anything. I'll show you what I'm doing, but I'm sure you know it all.
You could teach it to me.
Okay.
I think you could. All right, let's hear it for Dave Mustaine. We're gonna be back after this. Thank you so much. Fucking rad, dude. That was rad. Fucking Dave Mustaine right here. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing.
What an amazing guy. What an amazing guitar player.
Yeah.
And as you know, I was fortunate enough to sit down with Dave, guitars in hand, and have a little guitar lessons with Dave Navarro kind of thing.
Basically, yeah, it's a new installment of our new little thing that we have. That will be many more of, guitar lessons with Dave Navarro, which we don't want to allude to the fact that you'd be giving lessons.
No, they're just with me. I'm actually taking the
You're
lesson.
actually getting the lesson, which, you know, I've heard you play a couple things at my house, and so you might need a few lessons.
Yeah, I'm down, dude. You know, you can. I'll tell you, man. You can never stop learning and honing your craft. And you know, who better to learn from than the guys I grew up listening to? And Dave's certainly one of those guys.
Shredder.
He's amazing. And I know we got Warren DeMartini of Rat coming up, so that's going to be fucking badass. But let's take a look at the first installment of Guitar Lessons with Dave Navarro. This is me, Dave Navarro, receiving guitar lessons from legendary guitar master Dave Mustaine. All right, so for the first time here at Spread, we are lucky enough to have Dave Mustaine here with guitar in hand, and I've decided to join him because this is one guy I'd like to sit and watch him play and perhaps pick up a few things. So first let me ask you, dude, are you like self-taught? You are self-taught?
Yeah,
Me too.
I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't either.
Good.
Like when guys start saying numbers and letters and shit, I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
So you're the same way?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Well, maybe not the same exact way, but
Well, similar.
I know a little bit, but not a lot. So
Yeah, I mean, I basically, I'm one of those guitar players that I know the box, as they call it. You know, the typical blues box.
the pentatonic scale. That's what I'm stuck in. Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah,
You
I
don't
can't
sound
get out
stuck
of
in
it.
it. How is it that you sound like you're outside of that box all the time?
Well, maybe you were loaded when you heard it.
No, I was on the way over today.
Well, maybe not then. I don't know. I think that just because it's a blues progression, and you know, I'm, you know, to normal guitar player, if you're just beginning, that's like the pentatonic scale. And it's basically a whole blues thing that I got started off. I mean, when I first started playing, one of the very first records I ever had was a Chuck Berry record. And, and then you started hearing all the stories, and it's like, ooh.
Yeah, right.
Get rid of the record. But, you know, learning guitar for me, I started with the basics. Like, Led Zeppelin was one of my favorite bands, but I cut my teeth on AC/DC, and one of the first songs I actually learned was Panic in Detroit by David Bowie. And songs like All the Young Dudes, Mott the Hoople, and crap like that. And, you know, of course, you had to learn Stairway to Heaven, or you couldn't go into Guitar Center. And you know, just learning some of those basic scales. Now, I heard that there was an enharmonic minor. Well, it's supposed to be a harmonic minor, so I've been saying all these years it's an enharmonic minor. I don't really give a shit. I just know that it's the solo that I use in Wake Up Dead. So.
Let's take a look at that. Because all I know is that box you just showed me.
Okay.
And then everything else I kind of make up, do by ear.
Well, Wake Up Dead solo, I just used this scale. That's the scale, right?
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
So, that's the whole solo. I mean, it's basically moving around inside there. That's about the most exotic one that I do. And then I do a lot of like, in She-Wolf, it's like...
But that scale.
It's like a minor scale.
Is right here?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I slide down here. Yeah, because going down and sliding down there, it's a note that you wouldn't think someone would end on because you're changing the whole phrase where your hand's at.
Yeah, because like you got me when you're up in here, and that's still somewhat in like a box that I can like digest. But when you're soloing, like you're flying all over the neck, and that one scale up there, that's just like calculus to me.
Well, you know,
like you
the whole thing to me is like 2 strings at a time. I just go. It's the same thing. What, oops. Same thing.
Yeah.
It's all of those. And like the end of She-Wolf is probably more along our style. It's like. And that's like, you know, what we're saying, staying in a hand shape there. To some of the stuff that is more along the style of you know, my rhythm playing, which is what I made my style off. It was more using my palm for palm muting, and on the bridge here, when I roll my hand, I don't know if you can get in close enough there, but the blade on the outside of my hand there, when you roll that forward, there's a little bit of flesh there that dampens the strings, and the more that you dampen it, the more the pedaling comes into it, like. I just pull it, dampening it off there. And yeah, when you have it open, you can still hear the sound of the note, the E resonating. If you get too much, like Train of Consequences, yeah, you can see how it becomes atonal. And it becomes like a percussive
more
thing.
Percussive.
Like I was going to rehearsal, and I just moved to Arizona and stuck in a monsoon, and I had a convertible at the time. Now, if you don't live in Arizona, you don't realize monsoons come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in a puddle of water by the time I got to the studio. I was so pissed off, and I picked up my guitar and went... And that's how Train of Consequences was.
Oh, that's
And I do a lot of sliding with chords too. When I was
that's it gives it that like sick kind of
groaning sound.
Yeah. It's dope.
And that's the song Hook and Mouth, and I did a lot of sliding. I did that a couple songs in my previous band, but I can't remember what the songs were. But in Hook and Mouth is... Slide up on that last one. See, it's really heavy.
Yeah.
And then there's another thing
when you're tracking those, does the bass slide with you as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
the bass has got an approach of like fat guitar. And lead bass kind of thing. Same thing with the drums. And when I don't play drums, but I can write drum parts.
Right.
And when I think of the drum as a melodic instrument instead of a percussive instrument, you know, you can do solos going this way, going back the other way.
True.
Some of the stuff in the beginning, there was a lot of articulation with the guitars and the drums together.
Yeah.
So, like in Holy Wars, the beginning is... It's just a run. and then the drums come in. It's just triplets.
Yeah.
And then it goes into the song. And the drums, if they're just picked up like kaput, like every Al Green song that there is, you know, it's just a dull beginning.
So when you're at home or like when you're approaching guitar to write, like one thing I get asked a lot is, do I practice? And like, do you as a guitar player sit down and practice?
No,
I don't either.
I like to write when I pick up the guitar, and because I'm not set up to record, when I pick up the guitar, if I'll play something, usually it escapes me.
Yeah.
And it's gone forever. And
I usually call my voicemail and play it into my voicemail.
I have a pocket cassette recorder that I keep on me. That was one of the reasons why my marriage got weird at the end, was because I would call my phone in the middle of the night and go, okay, when I die, I'll be released from hell. You know, and my ex was going like, what? Who's he talking to?
Who are you talking to?
Yeah, I'm stupid enough to be laying in bed to you calling up some woman. So anyways, long story short, again, with Holy Wars, there's some different chord patterns too, where I inverted some things. Like,
yeah, that's interesting.
And that's a real hellish chord right there.
Oh, I really like that.
Same chord on this side, string right here, but then go draw it down. It's really evil. So that part right there, if you heard it, it's weird. And I ended in a bar chord because the other thing is the exclamation on the whole thing.
Absolutely.
There's only a couple other tricks that I have. It's like the spider chord, which I did in, what was the last song? That's one of them.
Yeah, what's that all about?
That was the song I did before. Yeah, you don't have to jump off the strings, yeah. That's a spider chord.
That's insane.
Yeah. That's basically it. Like when I did it in Metallica, it was a...
That's really interesting.
And in Megadeth, in Wake Up This. Right? So it's...
Now, was that something that you kind of just...
That's my invention.
You invented that, too?
Yeah, because I was lazy.
To save yourself the trouble.
It's too much noise.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm obviously very familiar with like those kind of chords, but to do that, that's a whole mind trip for me.
Yeah, you got to leave the other hand down though. It's just a temporary thing, yeah.
Doesn't have the same.
It's not.
It doesn't have the same feel.
Because you pick up. It's the other chord isn't sustaining.
That's badass.
So there's so much time in between there when you pick up, and it just kills the chord.
So I come with a lot of stuff in the studio. Like in there's one song where I inserted to get super high. I just pull this. I pull it way up there, but live it's nearly impossible to get into that position and come off of that.
How many frets is on that guitar?
This
21?
one? I don't know. I have no idea. 24.
Fret, yeah. Well, what I used to do was I had a Bill Lawrence pickup that had the blades on it. This is too low right here.
Pickup, right?
Yeah, you can play the pickup. You were going to do it, but you know you'd have to have the pickup raised up a little bit more, and because the Bill Lawrence has the blade on it, it's almost like a fret wire.
Yeah, that's right.
So it turns into that Uli Roth 600 fret guitar.
Absolutely.
You ever seen that guitar he has?
You guys fucking insane. But what I'm asking is more about like getting into that position.
How do you do it?
Without it being like, yeah,
Yeah, it's just a matter of not clunking around.
When learning, you know, because what I'm saying is like some of the stuff I come up with in the studio, I can't do it live.
Yeah, I'll show
because
you.
it's going to sound like, you know, this.
If I was gonna do it standing up.
Right. This is fucking awesome, by the way. Here's my other sound check song, by the way.
Reckoning Day. Okay.
Get used to that, Riss.
Okay, so if I was going to do this, the part in Washington is next. After I get done singing, I usually go, I got the strap on backwards, but I'll pinch the guitar between my legs, and I'll have it back here so it's balancing this way. And then I walk away and I'm smiling, so because I know no one else can do that.
That is fucking the shit, dude. Well, Dave, thanks so much for coming here and playing guitar with me, and let's hear it for Dave Mustaine, man. Some amazing shit. And I think that if we learned anything as guitar players, like, yeah, you know, there's the typical stuff, and you can learn and pay attention to what everybody else is doing, but truly it's kind of about just inventing your own technique, your own sound, and that's what will set you apart as a player. Right on, man. Thank you so much, dude.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
You got it, buddy.
One more time. And we will be back with a less amazing part of the show right after this.